Good evening. I would like to now call to order the meeting of the Maricopa County Community College District Governing Board for May 26, 2015. Public hearings. Number 1, proposed fiscal year 2015-2016 budget, Maricopa Community College District. The first item on the agenda is item number 1, a public hearing concerning the adoption of the proposed budget of the Maricopa Community College District for fiscal year 2015-16. This hearing was required under state law. The purpose of the hearing is to give any resident or taxpayer the opportunity to protest the inclusion of any item in the proposed budget. But first, I am going to ask Ms. Thompson and her staff to explain, on behalf of the governing board, the proposed budgets. Ms. Thompson.
Madam President, members of the board, since January we have shared information every month and have asked the board to take action on items related to the budget. Tonight is final budget adoption. By law, the board must adopt a budget by June 20th, and preceding that, we need to publish, which we did, the budget in the newspaper. We published it in the Arizona Republic twice, and it's also on our website where it will remain for 60 months, so 5 years. And tonight, Gay will share some brief information similar to the past about our proposed budget.
Thank you very much. Governing board members, EC members, and honored audience guests. Tonight I wanted to provide you with a very brief overview of the budget that the governing board has heard information about at least our last 2 meetings, with some subcommittee meetings in between. So this is probably more for your benefit than for the governing board's benefit, because gladly to say there is no new information that you have not already seen, and I hope but I will entertain any questions at the end. So our proposed budget for fiscal year 15-16 is down slightly. Most of this has to do with just a realigning of expenditures and resources. With our capital fund budget is the largest decrease, and that really represents spending down the bond funds that we raised through our 2004 capital program as buildings get built and major equipment gets purchased. So our projected resources for fiscal year 15-16 are about $7.3 million from new construction, monies we receive from SRP in lieu of property tax. We have a reduction in state aid. This will bring the district down to 0 state aid. For tuition fees and others, we have a slight decrease due to change in enrollment. A lot of this comes from bookstore supports. Again, it's pretty much user fee related, it's bookstore related. And then a reallocation from monies we had set aside for undercollected property taxes. We'd increased that during the recession. We don't really need to retain that now, so we put that back into the budget for reallocation. And we had a slight decline in the Arizona State Retirement System employee contribution rate and employer contribution rate. The part here, the $247,000, represents Maricopa's saving as an employer. For our proposed uses, we're looking at making some changes that are required under our employee policy manual for education, anniversary payments, faculty step increases. We're looking at operating and maintenance costs for our IT department, with which actually, I said department, but it's actually district-wide IT services here. For cyber insurance and property and liability insurance. And finally, to support our initiative of increasing the number of full-time permanent residential faculty to 60% of those in the teaching load. So 60% of the courses, the teaching load will be borne by full-time resident faculty. That will take us to projected expenditures of about $2.6 million. And then for the property tax rate, the budget that's before the board tonight has no increase above the resident tuition rate of $84 per credit hour, and there is no recommended increase in the tax levy that's allowable under the Constitution, the 2% increase. The only increase we're seeing now under the property tax levy is a $7.4 million, and that's from new construction that comes from property that was not on the tax rolls last year. So actually, because of a slight increase in property values, we're going to see a decrease in the tax rate proposed for next year. We also have a slight decrease in our debt service that we collect funds to repay investors on the bonds. So we actually have a slight decrease in that area as well. So overall, we'll have a slight decrease in both our primary and secondary tax rates. That's it.
At this time, I will afford any resident or taxpayer the opportunity to address the governing board concerning the proposed action under consideration. And for speaking this evening, Reverend Dr. Robin Hollis, Valley Interfaith Project. Good evening.
Good evening. Work my way over here. Thank you. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak tonight. Madam President, board members, and Chancellor Glasper, nice to see you again. I am the Reverend Dr. Robin Hollis. I am a deacon with the Arizona Episcopal Diocese, and I am also a small business owner. I'm here tonight with some of my colleagues from the Valley Interfaith, the executive committee that is of the Valley Interfaith Project. We're here this evening to specifically recognize this district and your role in the Valley and in the state of Arizona. We appreciate the role that the governing board is providing during these very turbulent economic times, and we thank the administration for making sure that our families have a place to secure post-secondary education and the very much needed job training. As a member of the board of Arizona Career Pathways, I also want to acknowledge your continued support in helping us to help individuals move from the poverty level to living wages and to being able to support their families in a style that we all would like to be experiencing. As you make the most important decision of the year, the approval of the annual budget, we think it bears remembering a few facts that this institution and our economic reality is experiencing. Maricopa Community Colleges are the most affordable higher education opportunity for our community. Tuition here is still less than the national average and lower than those in the neighboring western states. 68% of the jobs of Arizona will require post-secondary education by 2020, and currently 30% of our workforce has such a credential. We have a long way to go. Maricopa colleges remain the largest provider of job training in the state, and the state has been deliberately winnowing its contribution, as we just heard, to higher education, and in this case for you down to zero. The cuts to the community colleges have sent the wrong messages to our families and their businesses, removing more than $7.4 million in state funding. Board members, this year's college budget strikes us as being very sensible, especially given the unfortunate constraints imposed by the state legislature. We hope that we as a state will recover our senses and begin to reverse the pattern of systematic disinvestment in our institutions of public education. We cannot say on one hand that we want to build a thriving economy, while at the same time restricting the ability of our families to gain the skills they need to participate in the labor market. That is not economic development. We need to invest in our human capital, and there is no greater investment than in education. And we at Valley Interfaith Project, representing more than 40 community-based, faith-based organizations throughout Maricopa County, really strongly believe that. And we really want to applaud your courage in moving forward and making this decision in a positive way tonight. Thank you.
Next on the agenda, I'm sorry, are there any comments from members of the board? comes later. Right now, we are still on. Are there any comments from the board? If none, I will continue. Next on the agenda are item numbers 2 and 3, a public hearing concerning the approval of the proposed budgets of the Gateway Early College High School and Phoenix College Preparatory Academy for fiscal year 2015 and 16. This hearing is required under state law. The purpose of the hearing is to give any resident or taxpayer the opportunity to protest the inclusion of any item in the proposed budget. But first, I'm going to ask Ms. Thompson and her staff to explain on the behalf of the governing board the proposed budgets. Ms. Thompson.
Madam President and members of the board, in a public work session some months back, some information was shared about the budgets and operations of both of our charter high schools. And tonight, there is some information that each of the high schools will be sharing about the proposed budget. And these are also subject to action tonight and then again in June for the final adoption. And I'd like to ask at this time Lisa Smith, principal of the Gateway High School, to come up and present, and then Keith Brown after that.
Good evening, President Livingston, members of the board, CEC, and Chancellor Glasper. Let me see if I can. There you go. This year in 2016, we're expecting an increase in enrollment from 267 to 273. The next line down there shows the daily membership. That's what we actually get funded on, and that's based on attendance as well as enrollment. And you can see that we put a very conservative estimate of 255 up there. As you might remember, we did have to adjust our budget in 2015, so we're being very conservative in 2016. The state base funding per student right now, it did go up to $3,426. The comment on the left that said it should be, that's the pending lawsuit about the inflation increases that students haven't received. And right now it does not look like we're getting that in 2016. So they did include an additional assistance inflation increase this year of 1.59%. So that went up, and our Proposition 301 per student stayed the same. So overall, if you look at 15 to 16, the state-based funding has gone up, our additional assistance has gone up, and our Prop 301 has gone up. Prop 301 is used for teacher stipends for student achievement and for teacher training. So this increased funding, which isn't a lot, but any of it will keep all of our programs intact, remain staffing unchanged, and all of that money will go to increase cost in instructional materials and things like bus tickets. 3 years ago, we spent about $25,000 in bus tickets, and now we spend $55,000 in bus tickets, so they continue to go up. So it's just really basic inflationary cost. There is one comment here on the state-based funding. That's based on the law that was passed by the state legislature with the small school funding. And what that is a little extra money for small schools to pay for things like transportation, things that larger districts can spread the cost across a greater number of students. The legislature said that if you have 2 or more sites and over 600 kids, that money would be cut. We don't qualify for that. Maricopa has 2 charter schools, but we have less than 600 children. So that cut should not be triggered. Currently, right now, the state forms that just came out on Thursday include that trigger for us, which would be a reduction in funding. But the State Department of Education has released a statement saying they're going back to look at the forms again. So right now, that's pretty much in limbo. We're just going to have to wait until we get a final word from them on that. So. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Excuse me, were there any explanations at all for this ruling by the Department of Education?
No. The governor, the state legislature, and the head of AD, not Diane Douglas, but one of her spokesperson met, and they made a statement saying that was not the intention of the state legislature. Nothing official has come out, but they've released some statements. So I really don't understand. I'm not sure it's really been made public why those interpretations were made.
And so she's saying that the law wasn't, and the way it's interpreted, that it's just for the bigger schools, that wasn't correct? Or the opposite?
The way the law was written, the way I understand it, is the law
Yeah.
was written is that if you have 2 or more charter schools and you hit 600, those cuts get implemented. Between PC, Phoenix College, and Gateway, we're only going to have about 355 kids, so those cuts should not be triggered. On the state budget forms that were released, any amount of students would trigger the cut. If you had 4 students, the cut was triggered.
But that contradicts the law, at least as you interpreted it. And
That's the way I understand it. So what we're hoping is that they'll redo the forms and resend them out. And so we're still waiting for Arizona Department of Education to respond to that.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, members of the board, now I'd like to ask Keith Brown, President of the Phoenix College Prep Academy, to present.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. Madam President, members of the board, CAC members, Chancellor Glasper, thank you for the opportunity. I would like to just share a little bit regarding Phoenix College Preparatory's budget for this coming year. If I can pull it up here.
Just on the left there.
Okay. All right. There we go. When it comes to our current situation, we have 120, actually 130 students enrolled now. Our cap increase we are asking for during this board session as well. We're asking that it go to 400, but right now we're about 120, 130 students actually enrolled, but because of that cap, we're only going to get paid on 100. This affects our 2016 budget with about, our budget's about $700,000 basically. And we basically have gone from 67 students and up to 130 with about 100% increase, with only increasing our budget by about 15% over the last 2 years. And so we have the state base funding at $535,000, the additional assistance of $172,411, and then our Prop 301 funds at being $45,000, almost $46,000. Basically, the few increases that we have are very similar to Lisa's at Gateway because of transportation. And a few, with more students, we have more books and more college, but really we've had a very minimal increase in our budget based on almost 100% increase in students over the last 2 years, with only increasing our budget about 15%. We have a few more SPED students. We're hoping to add a breakfast program, but that doesn't affect our base funding in terms of our budget. But in terms of instructional support and things like that, that's where some of our budget items have increased it just slightly. And at this time, any questions?
Any questions or comments? No? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. That now concludes the public hearings for the adoption of the proposed budget of the Maricopa County Community College District for fiscal year 2015-2016, and the approval of the budgets for 2015-2016 for the Gateway Early College High School and the Phoenix College Preparatory Academy. Adoption of the charter school budgets will be considered at the June 16th regular board meetings. This concludes the public hearings, and there will be a special session to follow public hearings at the same location. Okay, read that. And now I would like to recall to convene the special session of May 26, 2015. The first action is of business services 1.1. So the first item on the agenda is 1.1, adoption of the proposed fiscal year 2015-2016 Maricopa County Community College District budget. In approving the budget, the board also authorizes the expenditure of the budgeted revenues and realized or designated fund balances within the total amount budgeted in each fund. That's what it says here. Don't say it. Can I just say, is there a motion? Can I?
I move that we approve
Thank
the
you.
budget for this fiscal year.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any additional discussion by board members? In accordance with state law, the governing board will now vote on the motion by roll call vote. Mr. Burke?
Madam Chair, I'd like to explain my vote.
Most certainly.
Madam Chair, would like to explain my vote.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to vote for this, but I would like for the board to consider strongly next year our entertaining a tax increase and a tuition increase both. I do not believe that this district will be able to maintain programs if we just maintain a level budget.
Thank you,
I vote
sir.
aye.
Thank you. Mr. Gutierrez?
Madam Chairman, I'd like to explain my vote.
Absolutely.
Madam Chairman, this budget represents the first step in planned obsolescence of the colleges. If we go into the future, each year with a flat budget, inflationary costs taking their toll, no budget increase, or rather no increases for employees, ultimately, the foreseeable demoralization of the district will take place. If we go forward in this way and expect magically buildings to be maintained on their own without any sacrifice or any additional funds by this board, it is obviously planned obsolescence. Perhaps that's what the legislature had in mind. And so I hope that this year, I intend to vote for this budget, and I hope we will adopt this budget. But I think we should start really considering what the consequences are of having no further increases and beginning to project that out 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Some of these things are absolutely predictable. We know what maintenance costs are, and we know what they're going to be and how they're going to grow. We know that. We know the consequences of not having any kind of step increases, cost of living increases for staff, and the consequences on morale. We know what that is. We can construct what the future looks like for this district if we don't take necessary steps to increase revenue. I vote aye, but I vote aye with great hesitation. And I hope that this board and that all of you out there realize that if we continue to do this, this is planned obsolescence. This is the plan to begin to make community colleges in this state and in this county a second-rate institution. All of us should resist that. I vote aye.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Mrs. Haver?
I vote aye.
Mr. Heap?
I vote aye, but at the same time, I'd like to thank the presidents and the board for reviewing continuous plans to free up capital for growth and progress in the district. So I vote aye.
Thank you, sir. Mrs. McGrath?
Madam President, I'd like to explain my vote.
Absolutely.
This is the third government budget I've participated in. The problem I have with this budget is that I did not participate. The completed budget was presented to the board and explained by staff. There are many ways to reduce expenses. By statute, the board is responsible for the budget. That did not happen, and I can't vote for a budget I have had no control over. I vote nay.
Thank you, Mrs. McGrath. Mr. Sarr?
I vote aye.
And the president votes I want to make a comment. First of all, I want to apologize for reading the wrong thing on the past page. I guess I just get going. I want to thank everyone that's worked hard on this budget. True, I walked into this budget, but I'm proud of it. We did not raise taxes. We did not raise tuition. No, we didn't give giant increases to faculty or staff. I understand that, and that does hurt. And I wish we could do that. I don't think this is planned obsolescence. I truly don't think the legislature wants us to go away. I think it's now time to think way outside that box. And what that means, I don't know today. Will that be a higher tuition? Will it be a further tax rate? Will it be something completely different? I don't know. But it's time to get a little dirty and to figure out what we do next, because we're a wonderful college and we're not going anywhere. And with that, I vote aye. 6-1. By a vote of 6-1, the motion does pass. The 2015-2016 Community College District budget has been adopted. Next, we move to item 1.2, which is the approval of the proposed Gateway Early College High School budget 2015-2016. Ms. Thompson, would you care to comment?
Madam President, members of the board, this is just to approve, basically to grant kind of authority for the next step, I think is the way I best express it. So there's a final action that will be taken next month, which is the actual adoption of the high school budget.
Move approval.
Second.
Any comments? Okay. Vote all in favor? Aye. Opposed? It has been passed 7-0. Approval of the proposed Phoenix College Preparatory Academy budget 2015-2016. Ms. Thompson?
Madam President, members of the board, my comments are the same. It's the same action for tonight in terms of approving and go forward for the adoption next month.
Do I have a motion to approve?
No.
Any comments on this? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It does pass 7-1. 7-0. I'm sorry. 7-0. I didn't major in math. I really didn't. Adjournment. The special session is now adjourned, and we move towards our regular meeting. Well, I'd like to call to order the regular board meeting of May 26, 2015. I'd like to welcome you and have Mr. Burke do the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For those of you that stuck around, thank you. The substitutes for this evening will be Janet Langsley for President Irene Kovla. Student 3.1. No, we don't. Oh, we do. Paul DeRose for Chris Haynes. Sorry, Paul. 3.1 Student Life and Leadership students at Rio Salado College. Welcome, sir.
Good, thank you. Hello, President Livingston, members of the board, members of the CEC, Dr. Glasper, and all our guests here. Thank you for allowing us to be here to present on the student life activities at Rio Salado College. Tonight, there's a few students with me. My name is John Bastian. I'm the coordinator of student life and leadership at Rio Salado. The majority of the presentation tonight will be done by our students. Vanessa Williams is here, Teresa Mayhew, and Jock Osley. I'm going to hand it over in a second to Vanessa. Let me get rid of this past PowerPoint here. So let me hand this over to Vanessa Williams, and she'll be talking about our programs.
President Livingston, members of the board, Dr. Glasper, members of the CEC, and guests. My name is Vanessa Williams. I am a student at Rio Salado College where I major in organizational management. I'm a member of Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society and also the National Society of Leadership and Success. I chose Rio Salado College because it offered me the opportunity to be able to continue working full-time and go to school full-time. The online presence allowed me to still be able to pursue my dreams while also being able to pay my bills. Student life and leadership at Rio. While Rio Salado does not offer traditional campus life, there are plenty of ways for students to be involved and add value to their academic experience. One of those ways is the National Society of Leadership and Success, Phi Theta Kappa International Honor Society, Student Public Policy Forum, Be a Leader Foundation and Mentorship Program, Chancellor Civic Leadership Medallion, Student Leadership Retreat. We actually had one student who received the Chancellor Civic Leadership Medallion. We had 2 students who were part of the Be a Leader Foundation Mentorship Program, and 3 students, myself included, who attended the Student Leadership Retreat. The National Society of Leadership and Success. There are induction requirements for this, one of which is an orientation. There's also a leadership training day, 3 reflections on speaker broadcasts, and 3 success networking team meetings. While all of these can be done online, there are also other ways that students can come together and meet via phone or in person so they can become more engaged with each other. There's also the National Engaged Leader Award. This requires students to complete 6 reflections on speaker broadcasts, 6 success networking team meetings, and 5 hours of community service. The National Society of Leadership and Success is in its 2nd year at Rio Salado College. 120 students have joined, and 35 students have been honored as inducted members. We also have 13 students who have received their National Engaged Leader Award.
President Livingston, members of the board, Dr. Glasper, members of the CEC, and our honored guests. Good evening. My name is Teresa Mayhew, and I'm a student at Rio Salado here as well. My major is teacher education and English, and the one group I'm in so far is Phi Theta Kappa International Honor Society. I chose to go to Rio because of the opportunities that it had for me. While I work part-time, I also have my own business that I run, creating various costume pieces for much of today's youth, for the most part. And going to class at Rio has allowed me to be able to balance my dream of being able to get my degree as well as balance everything else. So Phi Theta Kappa. In order to join, you need to have a cumulative GPA of 3.5 or above and at least 12 credits completed, and currently enrolled at Rio Salado College. For continuous enrollment, they ask that you continue at least 1 course per semester. You have to complete the application as well as the membership fee. And in my opinion, the membership fee is pocket change compared to what you get in return. Now, our Honor Society chapter is a 5-star chapter, which is the highest award that you can achieve for our school as well as our district. We are actually a 5-star region as well. We are one of the few 5-star regions, might I add. We also have commencement student speaker candidates, commencement student marshal candidates, and we've also hosted Phi Theta Kappa's Honors Institute for the Arizona region last year. Last year, one of our most notable projects was our Honors in Action project, which we had coordinated with the City of Tempe Public Library. And the goal of this was to present STEM fields for today's youth, and specifically orientating on getting kids and especially young women interested in STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Now, we're keeping up with this momentum. This year, we're currently working on our homeless service project. And the goal of this project is to actually give out care packages to the homeless in Tempe. As you know, it gets very hot out here in the desert. So taking care of our people is one of the first and foremost of what we try to do as our service projects. Now, opportunities on the horizon is that we're in the process of moving forward with student clubs and the expansion of student life at Rio Salado locations. We're continuing on with our community service projects, as well as our Honors in Action and various other projects, whether or not they are Phi Theta Kappa related, as well as the new college mascot related activities. As I'm sure some of you might be aware, we elected a new mascot, the Rio Wave, just very, very recently. And we're actually doing a lot more, but I just want to kind of highlight some of the cute things that we're working on. I would like to ask the board if they have any questions. Yeah.
I was just going to ask something to that effect. If you can do the wave for us, and also, what does the wave wear? Since you do costumes, is it going to have an outfit?
I haven't been on board with the wave personally. Previous members of our chapter have been. That's one of those things that I've heard about, but I haven't quite gotten into yet.
So as Mr. Gutierrez brought up, so can you do the wave?
No, I cannot.
Will there be a wave movement?
I'll be glad to see We used to do it at the stadium all the time.
I'm sorry. What I do really enjoy, do other board members have something to say other than the wave and the costume of the wave? Mr. Gutierrez? I wanted to commend you for, so many people always think of online education as just behind a screen and doing your work, which I know is obviously a good portion of your day. But you're really getting out there into the community, and that's something I applaud you for, and especially the services that you've brought up. So valuable to our community, and thank you very much, and I hope it just grows, and I hope the mascot's out there with you one day.
I hope so too.
Any other questions or comments?
President Livingston, I would just like to say, as president of Rio Salado, we will have a mascot presentation at a governing board meeting down the road, in which we will participate in the way. So.
And I will be there, and I think Mrs. McGrath will be doing the wave with the wave.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was it. Okay. Dr. Paul Dale, PVCC, Early Childhood Education.
Thank you. President Livingston, members of the board, Chancellor Glasper, CC colleagues and guests. It is my pleasure tonight to provide a brief update on Paradise Valley Community College's Early Childhood Education program in anticipation of an upcoming June board agenda item to renew our current 3-year grant through First Things First. I'm pleased to provide this report as it exemplifies the power of the Maricopa Community Colleges in developing community partnerships with employers, universities, and nonprofits, how grant-funded initiatives are generative and synergistic, yielding results far beyond the single college's capacity, and that leadership at Paradise Valley Community College exists throughout the organization, as demonstrated by the very good work of Professor Christy Kalunga, under whose leadership and direction our comprehensive early childhood education program has grown and prospered. It is my pleasure to introduce Professor Kalunga, who will be making the presentation. Christy?
Thank you.
Good evening.
Greetings, President Livingston, members of the board, Chancellor Glasper, member of the Chancellor's Executive Council, and guests. I'm honored to share a brief introduction of our program and some of the highlights of our recent work. First, I'm pleased to tell you that the Associate of Applied Science degree in Early Childhood Education at PVCC is accredited by the National Association for the Education of Young Children's Early Childhood Associate Degree Accreditation. Our vision is to be at the center of a vibrant early childhood community, and that's represented by our Vibrant Child. Whoops. Maybe not. In the last 15 to 18 years, information from the world of neuroscience has filtered into popular media and created a compelling focus on the importance of the first 5 years of life. These reported scientific gains generated a much deeper appreciation of the importance of early life experiences on the development of the brain and the unfolding of human behavior, the central role of early relationships. As a result of these increased opportunities for projects dedicated to improving the quality of early childhood experiences have been created. At PVCC, we've been able to leverage those opportunities to engage in some unique and beneficial projects, and I'd like to give you an overview of 3 of those projects. Or not. There we go. I am going to go backwards. And then, our first opportunity to respond to a proposal was from the Helios Education Foundation. They opened up a competitive bid in 2010 for projects that supported early language and literacy development. We responded, and we were one of 3 grantees that were selected. Our project sought to update and unify Arizona's approach to language acquisition and early childhood by establishing a foundational standard college course. And we were awarded $302,000 for that project. The Central Maricopa Infant Toddler Contract was an intergovernmental agreement between the Central Maricopa region of First Things First and the Maricopa Community College District and Paradise Valley Community College. First Things First is the result of a 2006 voter-approved initiative that funds quality early childhood development and health. This was a pilot program to improve the quality of infant and toddler care and early childhood education in the region using standardized and qualitative measures to determine its effectiveness. We were awarded $400,000 for 3 years for a total of $1.2 million. Our next project was another First Things First regional grant opportunity, and this came from the Phoenix North area. It was a competitive bid, and we were the only grantee selected. The focus of our professional development is unique in that we provide for the community building experiences through facilitated conferences, community of learners, extended contact with experts in the field, and the use of protocols. To date, we've been awarded $543,000. So together, the outcomes of these 3 grants have produced many exciting events for our community. One thing that we've been able to do is study with national and international leaders in the field as exemplified by this photo. So in this photo, we have Rianne Evans, who is from Arizona and is the executive director of the National Association for the Education of Young Children. Dr. Leila Gandini, the liaison between Reggio Emilia, Italy and the United States. Don Kraft, who's president of the Arizona Association for the Education of Young Children and coordinator of our Helios Education Foundation grant, Amelia Gambetti from Reggio Emilia, and Cheryl Foster, past president of the Arizona Association for the Education of Young Children and retired vice president from Central Arizona College. Both students and community members had time with our honored lecturers and guests, educators. These symbols are just a few of the logos of the community partners that we've been able to work with, places like the Arizona Science Center, the Arizona Association for the Education of Young Children, Child's Play, who is also a Helios Education Foundation grant recipient, Head Start in 2 different counties, Tucson Children's Project, and West Ed from California. We were also able to transcend boundaries between institutions, and we worked collaboratively with Central Arizona College on our Helios Education Foundation grant, and we worked with faculty members from all of the state universities as guest lecturers and presenters in our professional development. We had some outstanding results in terms of research as well. In our Helios Education Foundation grant, we did pre- and post-course assessments. And all of the participants, 77 from 2 different counties, showed a significant difference in the before and after course behaviors. They were enrolled in our Emergent Language and Literacy class. And that's a course that we share with Central Arizona College, which is pretty unique to share a course with course competencies between 2 different community colleges in the state in 2 different districts. The Central Maricopa Infant Toddler Project, we were able to align some college coursework with the nationally recognized program from Infant Toddler Care. 36 teachers and 9 directors had the opportunity to enroll in 6 college credit that was aligned with this professional development, and then they could use those college credits to apply for a nationally recognized credential. In our North region, First Things First Professional Development Grant, over the course of 5 years, we've had 300 participants participate in from 60 different early childhood programs, and they had the opportunity to enroll in 24 different college courses. Another thing that we've been able to do as a result of our Phoenix North Phoenix grant is actually work with early childhood programs to change their landscapes, literally. So we have a landscape architect who works with programs to redesign their outdoor environments so children have better opportunities to be outside, be closer in nature, be active, and do all of those good, healthy things. As a result of our professional development, we've had students and community participants have many opportunities to dialogue with others, be up close and personal with those national and international leaders, and so we have developed a new group of leaders that have very strong voices. And I'd like to read to you one of our participants' reflections because I think it encapsulates what we had hoped to have had happen in our community. This is from Ellen Voigtman. She's the director of Resurrection Lutheran Preschool in the North Phoenix area. And this is what she's saying about professional development opportunities that she's had. She says, "I've gained so much from the professional development opportunities over the past couple of years. I don't really know what I was doing before attending them. They've had such an impact on my approach to children and understanding their world that I am completely a different person. I love that the information we receive at our conference is so cutting edge, so thought-provoking, and so dynamic. You cannot leave without having some new understanding or new perspective on the world. I feel blessed to have been able to glean so much from the experiences of professionals like Ijima Jordan, Gigi Yu, Jesus Oviedo, Peter Blair, and many others. I've grown in my self-understanding and my self-view. I see what I do as so much more important now than I used to. Every time I attend a conference, I leave feeling energized, yet hungry for more. I also love having the opportunity to develop with a community of professionals. I finally feel that I'm part of something bigger than myself or my particular school. I feel invested in a larger work, a larger community." Thank you. Questions?
Any questions or comments? I do. Mr. Gutierrez, did you?
No.
Okay. I mean, the education for the young and bringing professional development to those who want to partake in the in the development for the young. You can't start this is the starting ground. And then by the time they grow and develop and go further, and then we take them on, or the K-8 and then beyond system takes them on, that foundation, what you're developing, is where it's at. And to have students so excited about professional development is amazing in this world of education, where sometimes the professional development might not be so enriching. It does depend on what they're getting. Thank you so much for your hard work and all the grants that you've amassed and all the reaching out and working with the partnerships. Thank you very much. It's most appreciated.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Dr. Linda Lujan?
Yes. President Livingston.
You are up.
Board members, Chancellor Glasper, CEC members, and audience. Tonight I'm introducing members of the Chandler Gilbert United Nations team and their advisor, Professor Noel Morellas. Noel also happens to be our Phi Theta Kappa advisor, so double leadership there. Thank you, Noel. Model United Nations, also known as Model UN, is an educational simulation and academic competition in which students learn about diplomacy, international relations, and the United Nations. Model UN involves and teaches research, public speaking, debating, and writing skills, in addition to critical thinking, teamwork, and leadership abilities. The Chandler Gilbert Model UN team hosted the 65th session of the Model UN Far West in San Francisco in April. As a community college, it is very unusual and quite an honor to be selected as the host. The students and Professor Morelos are very excited to share their experiences with the board.
Thank you, Dr. Lujan. Madam President, members of the board, Chancellor Glasper, CEC members, and guests. My name is Noel Morelos, as Dr. Lujan mentioned, political science faculty at Chandler Gilbert. I'm very proud to present to you our award-winning Model United Nations team. And to do the actual presentation, we have our STAR students, Liz Anson, Mallory Kurtz, and Laurel Smith, who will be doing the actual presentation.
Welcome.
Good evening. I'll make this full screen real quick. There's an actual mouse. There we go. Good evening, members of the board and guests. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is Liz Anson. I'm the Secretary General of the Chandler Gilbert Model United Nations team and Secretary General of the 65th session of Model United Nations of the Far West. Our organization, amongst several other colleges, participates annually in MUNFW, as we call it for short. We take on the roles of different countries throughout the world. We research those countries over the course of the school year, and in April we all meet in San Francisco and debate in simulated United Nations committees critical issues that are affecting the world today with students from around the world, as far as Russia, the Philippines, and a few other places as well. This year we had the honor of hosting the conference. I want to go over just a little bit of what MUNFW actually is. It is one of the 5 original Model United Nations conferences established by the UN in 1951. It was first hosted by Stanford in 1951. The second guest speaker was Eleanor Roosevelt, and we've continued that category of guest speaker in the time since. This year we had a former Soviet diplomat. It was our keynote speaker. Last year was the Ukrainian ambassador to the UN. And so we've had British ambassadors as well. Past hosts have included Stanford, San Francisco State, Mesa Community College, who's been a great partner and ally to us throughout this process, as well as Arizona State. We work closely in collaboration with them, and they were essential in helping us put together this conference this year. I want to turn it over to Mallory Kurtz to kind of talk about what we actually did at the conference this year.
Hi, I'm Mallory. Like Anson said, I served as the Undersecretary General this year. So our theme was the reach of the UN in the modern era, the conflict between individual, collective, and sovereign rights. We had a few different committees, the General Assembly, which every year we kind of spring a topic on them and they have to really think on their feet to figure that out. Laurel was our permanent representative for Canada, and she played a big role in helping to pass some of the simulated legislation that they passed in the GA. We have the International Maritime Organization. We talked about refugees. And in the Human Rights Council, we actually were the first school to bring up LGBTQ topics, which is really important for us because it's never really been talked about. And as it gains momentum in the UN, we kind of really want to simulate the experiences that you would when a lot of students at the conference go on to actually work in the UN. So as topics gain momentum there, we really want to simulate how that happens at conference. Okay. And this year we actually had the first career fair. It was mainly in part Noel's idea, part of why he's such an amazing advisor. I can never say enough about Noel though. And so we had the Peace Corps, we had the State Department, and the State Department representative was so open and so impressed with, we launched a social media aspect, again, trying to really simulate how the really UN works. We had Hunger Watch and we had the Army, so really good turnout for our first year. And the board of MUNFW definitely wants to implement that every year. So we're really, really proud of how that worked out for us. So that's the end.
Questions?
Any questions or comments? I just would like to know what your prospective majors are.
Oh. I'm studying justice and political science at ASU actually, but we keep coming back because this team is amazing. And I guess kind of before we close or let you guys talk, because I like to talk apparently, I really wanted to thank you. I guess when you're stuck in a room debating things and talking about things, it doesn't really ever seem, in my opinion, I know when we're stuck in board meetings, it never really seems like you make a difference sometimes. And I can say personally that what you do in this room has affected my life and given me, some of the best friends I've ever had, the best teacher and advisor I've ever had, and the best experience. And that is worth more than, anything I could pay in tuition, any school that I could possibly go to. What you do in this room really impacts our everyday life.
I am a dual major of political science and philosophy of politics, morality, and law. I also would like to add on to what Mallory said. This was a very, very unique experience for me. It was my first year. I'm a first, usually the people come back. Some of the people come back for like 7 years. It was the first year, and somehow I obtained being in a leadership role of it. I represented Canada, which was really a great experience, and I did meet some very best friends. I worked very closely with them. I learned a lot. I learned more in my United Nations Studies class, which is how you go through the conference in that class than I did in any of my other classes at my experience at Chandler Gilbert, and
You
it was just a very
shouldn't say that. I mean, no, probably should be quiet about that. There could be a professor listening that. No, I'm just kidding.
Excuse me.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, it's all right.
Okay.
You've still passed.
Thank you. But I would just like to share that it was just such a great, unique experience, and I loved it, and I would love to come back next year. I loved Mr. Morelos and how he really guided us through it and was a leader for us, and I would be coming back even though I'm going to ASU in next year, and I'd like to come back to the Chandler Gilbert team.
It sounds like a wonderful program. And sir, your major?
My major was political science. I actually graduated from NAU through the partnership program that we do with them. I currently work for the Arizona Department of Child Safety. I'm taking the Foreign Service Officer exam in June, so hopefully that goes well. This has been a life-changing experience for me. When I first started after I got out of the Navy, I just thought I was going to go to school and attend classes and get out and move on with my life. But Noel and one of the other students convinced me to give it a shot, and it really has changed my life. When she says people come back for 7 years, she's talking about me. And I just keep coming back. I probably won't be after this year, but it's given me the unique opportunity to sit on the board of directors of a nonprofit organization, which is a great resume bullet, and it's given me the opportunity to brush shoulders with UN ambassadors and really put to the test some of the skills and items that we've learned in Noel's classes. So it's a great opportunity. I'm really glad we had the opportunity to do it.
Thank you very much for sharing, and it was really nice to hear not only your majors, but how much this has impacted you. And if you could you make, whenever you have your next meeting or event, could you put me on the list? I can't promise I can come, but I'll really try. This sounds fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time, the few extra minutes to answer that. I think it's important for us as board members, for the public to really know that what makes such an impact in your lives. Congratulations.
Thank you.
4.3, Dr. Chris Bustamante, Insurance Studies Project.
Yes, thank you, President Livingston. Board members, Chancellor Glasper, CEC members, and guests. Mr. Otis White, who is our faculty chair for Business and Public Administration at Rio Salado College, will provide a brief presentation on a new credit degree program that was customized for the insurance industry that will be shared between other Maricopa community colleges. The program is intended to serve a growing insurance industry and workforce. Mr. White will also introduce some special guests from the insurance industry that he has with us this evening. He will also attest to this great partnership that the industry has with Rio and the Maricopa community colleges. So without further delay, Mr. Otis White.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. President Livingston, board members, Chancellor Glasper, of course, CEC members and guests. I'm here tonight to talk about a program that is on your academic agenda for curriculum this evening. And I wanted to give you some background about the history of this program and where it came from. Last April, we were invited as community college members to attend the Arizona Summit for the insurance companies, where they all came together to talk about the problem they were having in recruiting new employees and the issues around that with the insurance industry. What I'd like to show you over the next couple of minutes is the background of the outcome of that summit and what the community colleges did together in order to meet some of those needs. First, I'd like to introduce Rick Jones. He's the Chief Operating Officer for Copper Point Mutual Insurance Company. I'd also like to introduce Lamont Boyd, who is with the FICO company. The joke is Lamont was there to score us, and we made 800, so we did pretty good on our thing. And then last but not least, I'd like to introduce Chris Beheimer, sorry. And I'm thinking ahead here. Chris not only represents the Markel Insurance Company, but Chris has been an adjunct in the Maricopa Community College system for 34 years and has contributed greatly to the learning of students in our system, especially at Rio Salado. The Insurance Industry Summit in April of 2014 pointed out some startling facts about employment in Maricopa County and the state of Arizona in general. Over the next 2 to 3 years, over 7,000 positions are going to be filled, with new companies coming to town, existing companies expanding their operations prodigiously. Arizona is becoming one of the major hubs for insurance operations in the country. Over the next 5 to 7 years, this number will increase to 15,000, largely because the insurance industry is also filled with fairly elderly folks who are getting ready to retire. I believe 60% of the industry will retire in the next 10 to 12 years. So this is an industry that's ripe and ready for an intervention to help folks move forward and move up in those companies. These are high-paying, high-quality jobs. They are, in large part, we're talking about back-office operations, everything from risk management to claims to actuarial work. And the community colleges fit in well into the future of these jobs. We formed an advisory committee of 46 members, representing 23 national and local companies and organizations. The committee members were led from Rio Salado College, Mesa Community College, and Glendale Community College. All three of the chairs of the departments of business were participating in this during the development period. And we also, by the way, had national industry organizations presidents present, the institutes, which is their primary organization for giving the academic credentials to people who work in this field, was a member of our group. In 2014, 2015, we met to create the certificate and a new course that would be built into the certificate to help people learn how to work in the insurance industry and the opportunities and the history of the industry, so that they would come to those jobs with some knowledge and some depth. We created subgroups to work on the curriculum, and we worked with the workforce development team for Maricopa Community Colleges, Randy Kimmons and his team, in order to make sure that we were covering the ground that needed to be covered
so that these jobs could be put forward. This is a list of the advisory committees. It is a who's who of the insurance industry that participated in this process. Some major milestones: we raised $43,000 in grants and donations in order to fund the development as well as the marketing of the program. $15,000 of those funds went straight into an endowed scholarship, which will offer, to begin with, 3 scholarships per semester, 1 at each one of the 3 key schools. We're hoping that fund grows. Our goal is to have 4 scholarships per semester per school in our portfolio. We've established or are establishing a high school outreach bridge program, particularly focused on a summer bridge opportunity for high school students, working with DECA and the FBLA and some of our high school dual enrollment partners. There's a focus on veterans and re-careering adults, which the industry itself has asked us to put together. So this program will be featured at the Veterans Center that the different colleges operate around the district. We're planning for an AAS in insurance studies beginning fall 2015. One of the things that came out of our research is that there were no schools in Maricopa, there were no schools in Arizona that were offering any kind of insurance education or training as a career track. The 3 universities were not. I will say that ASU, Arizona State, does have in their mathematics department an actuarial science program, but that's, you mentioned not being a math major, that's deep math and painful. We're talking about having a more general kind of insurance education. Some of the schools that do: Georgia State, University of Georgia, Illinois State, Illinois Wesleyan, Excelsior College, and there's only one community college in the country that is deeply involved in this at this point, other than our own district, and that's Oklahoma City Community College, which has quite a nice program that we modeled much of our work after. We also are planning online transfer programs to the universities. We have a lot of interest from NAU at continuing this opportunity. And we've established credit for prior learning for employees that are already in the insurance industry. 3 of the core courses that we're offering, GBS 258, 263, and 264, are actually courses that have been in our course bank for probably 30 years. We've been offering this program for quite a while, but only in pieces, never brought together. They correspond to the industry courses 21, 22, and 23, which gets you your very first designation as an insurance professional, your AINS designation. And these courses are modeled after the National Education Program by the institutes. The course we added as an additional course in the CCL is a course about how to work, not only in the insurance industry, but how to work in general. How to show up on time, how to think about budgeting your time, how to think about scheduling your life for your job. That the insurance industry, particularly State Farm Insurance, provided us a lot of material and information and helped us build that course. So why did we get involved with this? First, to build interest among young people. This industry is a broad, interesting, and diverse industry with high-paying jobs and real good quality work involved in it. And we wanted to reach down to the young people, get below the community college level into the high schools, and build interest in this as a career path. The second, retraining and re-careering skills are critical right now in our economy, especially with veterans and some 50 plus who are finding it difficult to stay in jobs that no longer exist. Development programs to help existing workforce move up and succeed. Many of the companies will use our program internally to help their employees who haven't moved to a degree yet, degree is not required for getting a very good job in this particular industry, to help them move towards a degree as they think about the academic side of their career. And finally, to give new entrants a leg up in competing for jobs. If a student comes to them and has finished this CCL, most of the companies agree that they would at least get an interview. And that is a huge leap forward for somebody looking for a job. Thank you.
Any questions or comments?
Yes, Madam President, I have one. Sir, I apologize, I did not have enough sense to write down your name when you started, when we were introduced.
Otis White.
Thank you. Mr. White, is there any insurance that we can sell across state lines? I know we can't sell health insurance. Can we sell any insurance across state lines?
I am not an insurance agent. I am an educator, and I am not sure. We do hope that this program will sell across state lines, however, and we'll be able to offer it in several states here soon.
Could perhaps one of the insurance representatives who are here with you answer my question?
Is possible.
Yeah, in answer to your question, if you have a license in another state, if you wanted to write a risk located in California, you could do that if you had a license, a non-resident license.
Thank you.
Well, I'm not a math major, but I do know our state is particularly fond of insurance companies coming to town. And I know somebody that has a particular love in my family of the insurance industry and has been working hard. But I will say this, I do have one question, and what particular company are you attacking, hopefully, for students to start interning or hopefully get their foot in the door first? Are you going with the big State Farm, or are you going across the board?
We're actually asking the group, we have a wonderful advisory council that represents many, many companies, and we're asking them, those that are willing to have internships, to come together and form what's known as an ambassadors group, where they would not only do internships, they would also go out to the high schools and the colleges and talk to students about the industry and career opportunities. But we are asking for internships. This is particularly true when we get to the AAS level, where we will want an internship to be part of that curriculum.
I think this is fabulous. In a time when we're really asking and or begging, companies to come in, these are huge companies that are coming into us, and we have to recognize that. As you said, we're ripe for these types of companies to come in. And I will state, from a high school teacher standpoint, I have never heard anyone say, I want to be an insurance salesman. But with knowledge of the industry, I bet I could round up a few dozen, if not some more.
I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'd like to introduce Rick Jones, who would like to say a couple of words to the board.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mr. Jones.
Good evening, President Livingston, board members, Chancellor Blanchard, and members of the CEC. Thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight. The work that's being done in the insurance industry is very important. It's not only a workforce development issue, it's also an economic driver. It's a main driver of jobs in this state. As you could see those numbers, 7,000 and doubling in a few years. And so these are good jobs, good paying jobs. And as President Livingston said, nobody grows up saying, I want to be an insurance person. And so the challenge to our industry is that we have to find a way to make our business attractive. And so that was what the collaboration of the Workforce Initiative was, to help reach out to young folks to let them know that these are good paying jobs. So from that summit, we created a Arizona Insurance Institute, AII, if you want to call it that, an Arizona Insurance Institute website that describes our industry. It talks about jobs, and it talks about internships. Now, my story started 3-4 4 years ago, and several individuals in this room know that we had a meeting and I asked to have all of the Maricopa Community College courses, if I could get a copy of the listing of them that they had on file. And I'm looking at Gene, I'm looking at I think it was close to 35. So one thing that didn't happen over the years, it's happening different, was we didn't speak with one voice. We didn't come as an industry to Maricopa Community College and tell them what we needed. So you could see that broad list of partners, interest people who said, hey, this is important to us. We have an industry that is falling off of a cliff. If you think about our industry, that number there is a small number compared to what we probably really actually need in our business here in Maricopa. And that's frightening for us in our business. So we have to build out a sustainable model. We need to hire some of these young folks that made their presentation earlier today, the talent that's in this room. But Maricopa Community College, I thank you for your support. Chris and Otis, I thank you for Rio Salado taking the lead. I will also let you know that in a recent interview that I had with the Wall Street Journal, your name was mentioned, Maricopa Community College, the work that you all are doing to help the insurance industry. We believe that this is important. We thank you for your support. Great partnership, and it's exactly what we should be doing, is figuring out how to, every day, figuring out how to put people back to work and give it back to our community. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions? Does our professor want to speak? Did our 34-year-old faculty, 30, well, you look not older than 34, but 34 years. Did you want to say anything, sir?
I can't turn that down.
Okay.
As unaccustomed as he is.
34, 35.
Yeah, what's
Give or
a few
take.
years? I want to thank you also, and thank Otis and Chris and Lamont and Rick for helping put this program together. It's been something that I've been passionate about for a number of years. And what Otis didn't mention, there's a segment of the insurance industry that I'm involved in on a day-to-day basis, the specialty insurance industry that insures those things that other companies don't want to write. There are more companies representing that segment of our business in Phoenix, Scottsdale area than any place this side of Lloyd's of London. And so one of the things that we're trying to do is also get folks involved in that particular part of the business. And it's not just sales, as was mentioned earlier, it's claims, it's underwriting, it's finance, information technology, administration. There are tons of things, tons of opportunities for people. And I've had the pleasure, the opportunity, the honor to work with Rio since my first orientation was in August of 1980. We were at Westwood High School and they hadn't turned on the air conditioning yet. So again, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for all your years of service. You're amazing. 5, which is Faculty Executive Council report, and for her first report, Ms. Selena Bednarek, and I just butchered that.
It's okay. My husband assured me it would roll off everyone's tongue, but it doesn't. It's Bednarek.
Bednarek. Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Livingston, members of the board, Chancellor Glasper, members of CEC, and guests. My name is Selena Bednarek, and I stand before you tonight as the new president of the Maricopa Community Colleges Faculty Association. I am incredibly proud to work for Maricopa and the students we serve. We are all fortunate to be a part of such a remarkable institution, decades in the making, with thousands of faculty, staff, and administrators committed to Maricopa's excellence and effectiveness. As residential faculty, we dedicate our lives to our profession and to the students in our community college system. Providing education and helping students create new possibilities for their lives is transformative for them and meaningful for us. The Faculty Association leadership is fortunate to represent diverse, innovative, and talented faculty across the district who work side by side with adjunct faculty to provide quality education for our community. We greatly value the work of our adjuncts and know our system relies heavily upon them. At the same time, we wholeheartedly believe that the growing numbers of residential faculty is needed to engage and assist our community members to reach their goals in education. We fully support the measured and systematic implementation of the 60/40 initiative. We are dedicated to working collaboratively with each of you, members of CEC, college administrations, and all employees through our shared governance process to meet the needs of our mission, to meet the needs and mission of our great institution, and dialogue about the important and complex issues that faced our district. Thank you, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Leo Valverde. Good evening, sir.
Madam President, members of the board, Chancellor Glasper, members of the CEC, honored guests, family, friends, Romans. My name is Leo Valverde. I'm the president of the Adjunct Faculty Association. I'd like to report on two brief happenings. First, on May the 9th of this year, the AFA had its elections, and we had a new vice president secretary, Anthony Fusco. I'll bring him when his term actually starts in July. And we also re-elected our vice president treasurer, Steve Kipuros. We'll also bring in July. And unfortunately for all of you, you're stuck with me for another year as well. In addition, the second thing that I'd actually like to point out is simply a report that we are putting the finishing touches actually on our adjunct faculty fall day of learning, and it is focused entirely on the residential hiring process. We are very pleased to have some cooperation from several of the college presidents here today, a number of vice presidents for academic affairs, as well as the vice chancellor for human resources, and a number of faculty members and deans and department chairs who can lend their expertise in the hiring process, both for the initial interviews, but as well as finalist interviews. And I'm also pleased to announce that we are also having a track on the occupational side as well. We've focused primarily on the academic side in the past, and we are now expanding that. That program will be in September, but with summer coming, we are really trying to wrap that up, and that has been a project in conjunction with the Adjunct Faculty Association, MCLI, and a number of dedicated volunteer adjunct faculty throughout the district. That's all.
Thank you very much, sir, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Emeritus Awards and Recognitions, 7.1, Dr. Ernie Lara, Emeritus Distinction Award from Estrella Mountain.
President Livingston, may I approach the podium?
Absolutely, sir. Oh, no. Really leaving now? It just gets good. Really? Okay. Have a great evening. Drive safe. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. President Livingston, members of the governing board, Chancellor Glasper, and members of CEC. Tonight, you have each received a copy of Estrella Mountain's 2015 commencement program. The inside cover of the program paid tribute to Estrella Mountain's Vice President of Academic Affairs, Dr. Brian K. Tippett, who passed away suddenly this February. I asked Dr. Kathleen Uccello, Dean of Academic Affairs at Estrella Mountain, to join me at the podium to speak about Dr. Tippett and the person he was.
Thank you, Dr. Lotto. President Livingston, members of the board, Chancellor Glasper, members of the CEC, and guests. My name is Kathleen Uccello. As Dean of Academic Affairs at Estrella Mountain Community College, it is my honor to speak to you tonight about Dr. Brian K. Tippett. Dr. Tippett once said, "Many institutions of higher education are focused only on teaching, but Estrella Mountain Community College is focused on teaching, learning, and caring. And to that end, every decision that is made should improve learning for all." As the Vice President of Academic Affairs at Estrella Mountain, Dr. Tippett contributed more than 30 years of higher education experience to ensure the highest quality of teaching, learning, and caring at the college. His collaborative style supported students, faculty, staff, and administrators so that they could be empowered to actualize their potential and advance their academic and life goals. Through the gift of caring and personal encouragement, Dr. Tippett gave heart to the Estrella family so that students and colleagues alike were able to pursue their dreams of higher education and success. Growing up in the inner city of Pittsburgh, Dr. Tippett quickly learned how academic opportunity often equates to success in life. He vowed that keeping a college education within reach for all would be a fundamental purpose of his career. Dr. Tippett worked in healthcare before becoming a biology faculty member at the Community College of Allegheny County. Joining the Maricopa County Community College system in 1998, Dr. Tippett worked at Mesa Community College as an associate dean before joining Estrella Mountain Community College as a dean and then as vice president. Dr. Tippett embodied learning. He achieved a Bachelor of Science in Biology from Gannon University in Pennsylvania, a Master of Science in Biology from Duquesne University in Pennsylvania, a Doctorate of Education in Educational Leadership from the University of Sarasota in Florida, and a Certificate in Higher Education Management from the Harvard Graduate School of Education in Massachusetts. He was continuing his lifelong learning up until his last days, pursuing his Juris Doctor in law at Arizona Summit Law School. Dr. Tippett reached out beyond the walls of Estrella Mountain Community College to ensure that his mission to impact lives through learning was met nationwide. He served the community in numerous ways, including leadership roles for organizations such as the Higher Learning Commission, Arizona Academic Administrators Association, Arizona State Board of Pharmacy, West Valley Fine Arts Council, Valley of the Sun United Way, and the Sojourner Center. Dr. Brian K. Tippett exemplified teaching, learning, and caring at Estrella Mountain Community College and beyond. He was a loving partner, a champion of access to higher education, a dear friend, and a caring family member. His legacy lives on in the memories of his family, friends, colleagues, and students as an inspiration to embrace the opportunities we have each day to learn, laugh, love, and live to our greatest potential. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Uticello. On behalf of Dr. Tippett, I ask Mr. Frank Wilson, Brian's partner, to accept the award and say a few words.
Thank you, Kathleen. Madam President Livingston, governing board members, Dr. Glasper, and other faculty members, administrators, and students. On behalf of myself and Dr. Tippett's family, I would like to thank everyone responsible and involved for what is occurring at this moment in time here at the district office, which was, by the way, Dr. Tippett's third home following the Estrella Mountain campus. Words alone cannot convey the joy this moment brings to my heart and the hearts of many within the district and those outside of the district, including friends and family from back east. Bestowing the title of emeritus upon him is such a great honor. What a way to have your career finalized with just that one word and/or title. The implications are many. One that stands above most in my mind is that the community has come together to say thank you for a job well done. And also having your work validated by your peers. Recognition is a beautiful thing, and he certainly has had an abundance of that over the past couple of months, especially with the celebration of life service at Phoenix College back in April. And also your nomination and acceptance as one of the 5 individuals selected as one of the top employees of the year award luncheon that was held a couple of weeks ago. And then finally tonight. I would have never thought that after arriving here 17 years ago, I would be standing here before you at this podium, along with your family from Australia, expressing my gratitude to say thank you for all the hard work you performed here at the district throughout the span of those years. I too feel very honored to be standing here before all of you, expressing my thoughts. Often I would watch the governing board meetings on MCC TV, So when Brian would engage me in conversation about what was going on, about issues facing the district, at least I could, come back at him with an informed perspective. For Brian, education was and always has been a priority, not only for himself, but he would champion, as Kathleen had suggested, others to pursue their dreams and aspirations, as well as by furthering, to help them by furthering their own education. And for some who would, he would have to encourage their return back to school so they could realize their full potential. And yes, again, the world has lost yet another beautiful mind with his passing. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that another beautiful mind was lost last week within the Australia Mountain community family. Today's gathering has allowed this honor to help his legacy to continue on and forward. From his early days, as Kathleen had mentioned, teaching at the community college in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, up to his last position at Australia Mountain, he always maintained that high bar for himself, but always with it keeping in mind that not everyone's bar is as high as his, and realizing that it allowed him to be approach situations with a certain amount of reason, adding clarity to the situation, whatever the situation may be. And I know this because I lived with him for almost 25 years. But this ability made him the person who he is and was. And hopefully the essence of what he believed and how he lived will be carried on long after tonight. Thank you.
On behalf of the Maricopa Community Colleges, Dr. Tippett is awarded Vice President Emeritus. Thank you, Frank.
For those on the board that knew him, are there any other words that you'd like to give this evening?
Madam Chair, I worked with Mr. Tippett at Mesa Community College for several years. I admired him very much. I'm pleased about this award. He deserves it, and we will miss him.
I echo that as well. I had a chance to work with Brian numerous times with student life groups and so on, and this award is a small appreciation for our students to give to him, as well as for all his counterparts in the district to recognize him for all the things that he has done for this district.
Mr. Gutierrez? No? I just want to say I didn't know Mr. Tippett, but I wish I did. And he's inspired me, and you've inspired me with your speech. Thank you very, very much. Thank you very, very much for the words. Thank you. It feels wrong to go on, but again, we must, or we'll be here all night. 7.2, Dr. Sherry Olson, South Mountain Community College, the International Career Development Conference.
Good evening.
Good evening.
President Livingston, members of the Governing Board, and Chancellor Glasper, fellow CEC members, and employees and guests in our audience tonight. It is my pleasure to introduce key individuals from South Mountain Community College's DECA Club that competed in the International Career Development Conference in Orlando, Florida in April of 2015. Barbara Gonzalez, accounting faculty and DECA advisor, and students John Gus Barnes, Brian Florendo, and Juan Gonzalez are here tonight representing our club and to tell you about their experience. So I'll turn it over to Barbara.
Good evening, board members, Chancellor Glasper, CEC members, and guests.
Again, my name is Barbara Gonzalez. I'm accounting faculty at South Mountain Community College and the Collegiate DECA advisor. Our chapter has only been around for 1 year. And I don't know how much you guys know about DECA, but DECA is a business club. It helps prepare leaders in human resource management, marketing, finance, and hospitality. And we got a lot of help getting our club started from our sister colleges, particularly Scottsdale Community College, Strand Mountain, and Glendale. We do a lot of activities throughout the year, including community service. We do industry visits. Last month we went to Amazon Warehouse so that our students can learn about different professions that they can be in and see companies at work. And our main thing we do is competition. So we have a state competition. There are about 7 chapters, collegiate chapters in Arizona. It's very popular, of course, in high schools. And we competed in February at Grand Canyon University. And at that competition, South Mountain had 5 students that qualified to go to the International Career Development Conference, and that was in Orlando, Florida in April. To qualify, they had to place first, second, or third place, and they had to score 70% or above in their area that they competed in. So I'm going to have the students tell you about how exciting it was over in Orlando. It was a ton of fun. Next year we're going to Washington, D.C. And these 3, we did have 5 students to go, but these 3 were finalists at that competition. So what happens is they compete, and then they are finalists, and then they compete again. And these guys were also top 10. And I want you to understand the magnitude of this because we were competing against state universities, Gonzaga University, major universities. And we, no offense to other community colleges, but we did have the most finalists at South Mountain. So I'm going to introduce Gus Barnes, Brian Florando, sorry, I butchered your name, and Juan Gonzalez to tell you about it.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Madam President and members of the Maricopa Community Colleges. My name is Gus Barnes. I was the current president, this past president of DECA Collegiate over at South Mountain. This was, like she said, this was our first year, and within our first year, we accomplished a lot. We went down to Orlando, Florida this past April and competed. I competed in various competitions, and I was able to place in top 10 finalists in the Entrepreneur Challenge, where myself and Juan teamed up with a student from Estrella Mountain Community Colleges. And when we there, you get the case study on the spot. So we didn't pre-practice or anything. So you get this case study. You have like 24 hours to present it the next day. And we were able to place top 10 out of like 1,500 students. There's like 30 teams that competed within this category. So we accomplished that. Also won awards for academic honors and leadership passport, which was the Blue Diamond Award. These 2 awards, I received these 2 awards for the last year. I did over 50 hours of community service. I maintained a GPA of 3.5, and I also was the current president of the DECA chapter. My experience has been unbelievable for me. It gave me a chance to go and compete against other students. I mean, you learn a lot. There's conferences down there. We had leaders that came in from the different various industry. There's so much knowledge out there for us, so we really enjoyed it. I'd like to thank our professor for that, and I'll turn it over to Brian.
Hello, Madam President, Chancellor, board members. My name is Brian Florendo. I've been a student for a while now. Never participated in any club before. I tell people, Barbara made me do this. She made me sign up for it because she knew what I was capable of. That I didn't really see in myself. But going there, I was able to compete. We had to take an exam, and for me, I was in accounting, and I competed where we had to take a finance test, other various banking, IT, finance stuff, and accounting questions, and then we were given, as he stated, a simulation. So we had 30 minutes to read over and complete an accounting simulation, and then present in front of a judge. Did well in the first one, and then again, as soon as you find out you're a finalist, you basically right back at it again. Go and same thing, 30 minutes to prepare, solve an accounting equation, or just a business simulation that gives you 5 things that you have to accomplish in your solution and then present to the judge. I was able to get into the top 10. We should find out soon the actual spot. I know not for a second or third, but I got it out of the way. I went. I was a finalist. I'm proud of it. Next year, plan is to win it. Do what I can. I know I can, thanks to Barbara. She, like I said, without her, I would have never done it. And it just gave me the confidence to do a lot more and try more. One.
Good evening. How's everybody doing today? First of all, I want to thank you guys for funding the trip. Actually, I woke up and I was like, wow, I'm really in Florida. And it was just an amazing feeling. And we did so much educationally and fun-wise, but there was just so much to do. Like they said, it was you got 30 minutes to read a case, and you had those same 30 minutes to find the solution. I placed top 10 in human resource management and the entrepreneurial challenge, and it was just an amazing experience. I learned so much, and I also got a chance to network. I met the director of business development for Men's Warehouse, and I actually had an interview today with the local Men's Warehouse too. So hopefully I get a call back. And it was just, I don't know I want to find the proper word to say it. It was just, I learned how to add value to myself. I learned how to not get nervous in a crowd or in an interview. My interview today went smooth thanks to those case studies. I didn't stutter or anything. And you know what? Thank you guys again for this moment right here to let me tell you guys about it. Do you guys have any questions by any chance?
Any comments or questions?
I have to congratulate you because the skills you're learning will make all the difference. Those skills separate the people who really do well from those who struggle. That's been my experience in life, and I know so many examples of students that weren't really that great in academics, but they could express themselves, and they went far with it. So congratulations, and I will be expecting to hear a lot from you guys in the future.
Washington, D.C. next year.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Any others? Thank you very much, gentlemen, and yes, we all expect first place. No pressure. None at all. Chancellor's report, Dr. Glasper.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I have 2 items that I would like to share with the board tonight. First and foremost, I just want to comment about Dr. Tippett. I've shared a cinder block wall with Frank and Brian for the last 17 years. We are neighbors. So I've known Brian since he came to the district, and will be a great loss to all of us. Second to that, I want to thank the board for approving the budget tonight, and thank the board for establishing its committees. And for the last few months, Mr. Gutierrez has been diligently sharing with the board through the assistance of Vice Chancellor Thompson and her staff the budgeting information throughout this district. I think it's important for all of us to understand the process that it will take now that we have a budget committee. We have never had a budget committee in this district in 50 years. This is the first. So the process of establishing the budget is one that has evolved over an extended period of time. We have been advised on many occasions, and we all believe it and understand it, that the budget is a policy document, and policy is the domain of the board. So as you go through your deliberations over the next few months and continue into the process into February and to this time next year, I ask for you to take into consideration the path that this district has taken for 50 years, and more recently, the path that it has taken since 2008. Since that period of time, we have lost $68 million of permanent resources. And we have become more effective and we've become more efficient. And we've looked at ways to reduce our budgets, and we have reduced our budgets in excess of $45 million in the course of a few years, and we're continuing to do even more. And we will do whatever the board asks us to do. But you've had an opportunity to listen to our students tonight and previously in prior board meetings, and I want you to take that into consideration. And you know the stats as well as I do, but I will repeat them publicly. Last year, a $7.3 billion economic impact to the state of Arizona. 60% of ASU's juniors have 12 or more credit hours from the Maricopa colleges. You heard a gentleman earlier today talk about the fact that he was able to receive his degree from Rio, from Rio, and also, not Rio, but from Chandler Gilbert, and also with NAU. NAU is located on all of our college campuses, land-based, and with Rio Salado. They are able to graduate students, as in the communication program, without leaving the college campus. If this district that just awarded in excess of 23,000 certificates and degrees is not allowed to continue its path and serve this community, because we believe that a smaller, more contracted system is what the valley needs and what the state needs. And I would ask the board to be very deliberate in that decision. And when you make it, then we will adjust appropriately. We are in the process now of talking to individuals to provide us with the data, population, student data, pricing data, to give you the evidence-based data that you need in order to make a decision. And once you look at that information, I would proffer to you that without some type of increase in this system, we cannot continue to serve the number of students that we serve on an annual basis. During this recession, I will say this in earnest, that we have been there and we've done that when we served 275,000 students and we flipped our full-time, part-time ratios to the point where quality was in question. We've been asking our board to support us in going back to a reasonable percentage so that we can maintain a level of quality. And so as good soldiers, and I said this to the state of Arizona and I'll say it to you as well, I want to thank our faculty, our staff, our administrators for being good soldiers. But good soldiers get tired, and good soldiers begin to look at other opportunities. I would hate for us to begin to lose the best and the brightest of this institution because we think saving $1 is more important. But we will give you the information that you will request, and we'll probably give you even more. And then we will honor your decision. But with that, I ask in the name of our students and our community that we make a decision that allows the Maricopa Community Colleges to remain one of the best and the brightest institutions in this country and the largest provider of workforce training in the state of Arizona. Thank you.
There are no employee group reports this evening, so now we move to the approval of the order of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay. All in favor of approving the order of the agenda?
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes 7-0. Consent agenda, consideration of consent agenda action items. Does anyone wish to remove any items from the consent agenda?
Madam President,
Mr. Saar.
I would ask that we remove item 13.4 from the consent agenda.
So be it. So 13.4 will be removed. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the removal of 13.4?
I move approval with the exception of 13.4.
Do we have a second?
A second.
All in favor of approving the consent agenda with the removal of 13.4? Aye. Any opposed? It passes 7-0.
No, 13.4.
No. We go back to discuss.
Yeah, 13.
Oh, okay. The approval of the intergovernmental agreement between Maricopa Community Colleges and Maricopa County. Mr. Czar?
I move that we table this until a future date.
Okay. Any discussion, or we've just moved and seconded? All in favor of approving 13.4 to be at a later date?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Consideration of non-consent action items. Items 14.2, the approval of the authorization of expenditures of legal fees will be pulled for consideration at the June 16th, 2015 regular board meeting. 14.1, the approval of proposed language revisions 4.10 Board Code of Conduct and 4.5 board meetings. Mr. Sarr, would you care to comment?
The subcommittee on policy is bringing to the board tonight a final vote on these two changes to our policies. We had the first read a month ago. Tonight is the vote on these changes. The changes include striking 5C out of the Board Code of Conduct and adding the language that talks about statutes regarding Arizona revised statutes to more diversely cover that. It also changes the meetings in the fact that we now have 7 board members instead of 5. We had to make some adjustments to that. So those are the two that we will be voting on tonight.
Are there any comments?
Move approval.
Okay. Second? Okay. Vote all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Business Services 15.1, the approval of contract award for the replacement of the Maricopa County Community College District KJAS broadcast tower. Ms. Thompson, would you care to comment?
Madam President, members of the board, this tower for the KJZZ radio station is about 50 years old and was found during a routine inspection to be very much in need of not only repair but replacement. So repairs were put in place to prevent a possible collapse, and now we're looking to replace the tower, and we recommend its approval.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Gutierrez.
Sounds like a good movie, Collapsing Tower. Let it collapse.
Yeah. I move that we approve.
Second.
Vote all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, I made an error and I apologize. We need to go back to 14.2, the approval of the authorization of expenditures of legal fees.
No.
Yes, 14.2. Because we pulled for. I was right. I was right. Okay, never mind. I just had to say that. 15.2, the approval of the conceptual approval for the social behavioral building remodel and the expansion at Scottsdale Community College. Ms. Thompson, would you care to comment?
Madam President, members of the board, this is a renovation of a total of 9,000 square feet and approximately 500 new gross square footage. It will result in the consolidation of instructional space, student support, and faculty and adjunct offices for the Social Behavioral Sciences Division into a single location, and we recommend its approval.
Any comments? Any questions?
Move we approve.
Vote all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes 7-0. The next one, 15.3, Ms. Thompson, this is also you, which is the approval of contract award of the 2015 annual summer pavement maintenance program for the district-wide maintenance.
Madam President, members of the board, as indicated, this is an annual award. Summer is having lighter numbers or lesser numbers of students and faculty. We try to do these repairs in order to keep them in more usable condition for a longer period of time. And the award is to Ace Asphalt following a bid process.
Are there any comments or questions?
Move approval.
Vote all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it is passing 7-0. For the public and those watching at home, I do want you to know we're not just, skating through these. We do have meetings prior to this that we go over each in depth. So, just for your knowledge and heads up.
Public meetings.
And yes, you are welcome. We don't bring food, but you are welcome, and we would eat your food if you care to bring any. 15.4, approval of the cyber risk insurance. Ms. Thompson, would you care to comment?
Madam President, members of the board, last month we brought before the board a request to approve the first layer of cyber insurance for $5 million, and that was approved by the governing board. This is an excess layer, so additional coverage beyond the $5 million for another $5 million, so for a total of $10 million, and we recommend its approval.
Motion to approve?
So moved.
Any comments? Vote all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And it so passes 7-0. Information items, 16.1, Human Resources, review of employments, regular, short-term, and specially funded. Ms. Shelton Johnson, good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the period of April 1st through April 30th, we gladly welcomed 27 new hires.
Excellent. And 16.2, review of separations.
And Madam Chair, members of the board, for that same period of April 1st through the 30th, we saw 11 separations.
Okay, very good. Are there any comments or questions for Ms. Shelton Johnson? Nice. Monitoring reports, business services, 17.1, the budget analysis report, Fund 1, general unrestricted fund for the 10 months ending April 30th, 2015. Ms. Thompson, would you care to comment?
Madam President, members of the board, this is the budget analysis report for the general unrestricted fund, or the general fund, which is our main operating budget. Our expenditures are compared to actuals for the same period for prior years and also to budget, and our expenditures are very much on par with prior years and what we would expect. That is in many ways because most of our expenditures are in payroll. We have payroll every 2 weeks, so there's a pattern every year that we see, but it is on par with budget in prior years. And similarly with revenues, there is a pattern in terms of collections, especially property taxes, and our collections are what we would expect and on par with prior years, and we expect a slight increase in fund balance at the end of the year.
Very good. Any comments or questions from the board? Okay, very good. Moving on to community linkage, our governing board reports. Mr. Burke.
Madam Chair, it's been a busy month. I attended 4 convocations: the American Indian students, the African American students, Asian Pacific Islander students, and the Hispanic students. 3 graduations: Rio Salado, Chandler Gilbert, and the HSE, or High School Equivalency program at Rio, which is always a very energetic affair, I can tell you. The Chandler Gilbert event was quite interesting because about 4 o'clock in the afternoon there was a cloud burst. And I understand that Dr. Lujan sent a message to whoever's in charge of rain and got a dispensation from about 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, 8:30, and we had dry weather during graduation. So that was, it was nice not to be rained on the outdoors. I also attended Chandler Gilbert's Teal and Silver Awards program. The college gives awards to people in the community, business, people who help the college, political figures, people who are interacting with the college and helping the college. I'll give you one example. There's a man, I believe, who works for Intel who volunteers on Saturday to help students with math. There's a man who does not get paid, but he comes every Saturday to work with those students. And the college gave him an award. I think that's appropriate, and I was really pleased to see a number of awards like that. I also attended the Women's Leadership Luncheon for their awards and the Major Taxpayers Meeting.
Very good, thank you, sir. You were busy. Mr. Gutierrez.
Madam Chairman, I too was at graduations. I was South Mountain's graduation, the Hispanic convocation, the Native American convocation, the Veterans convocation as well. So it was a busy and exciting time, and it's just always exciting, really inspiring to be at graduation at the end of the year, to be at the convocations at the end of the year. It was particularly inspiring to go to the veterans because it was dramatically larger than the convocation than it was last year, which I believe was the first year that it took place. It was dramatically larger, and I suspect it's going to keep growing. And it was great to see all those young folks and some folks that weren't so young. Who were pretty excited about being at our colleges. So that was great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Ms. Haber.
Yes, I had an extraordinary month. I visited my last community college, which was South Mountain, and it was quite an exciting experience, and I learned a lot of new things that you would think I would have learned everything by the time I visited my 10th college, but I was especially impressed with the developmental ed program there and the thoughtfulness of thinking about those students that are close to measuring up to take the English and the Math 101, but just not quite there. And I guess many people end up in that category who've been away from college for a while, and they've developed a boot camp in which these people have intense instruction for a couple weeks. This saves them a semester worth of time, a semester worth of money, and I just was really quite excited about the program. I visited several celebrations, as did everyone. Spot 127, which awarded scholarships to underserved students that many have had some pretty serious problems and difficult home lives. I also attended the Chandler Gilbert Morning Awards, which was for citizens who had contributed a great deal, both in time and money. It made me feel a little bit humble that I should be doing more, and I think probably everybody felt that way who listened to the stories of these people who have contributed so much of their lives to, in this case, Chandler Gilbert Community College. I was, let's see, I don't want to leave anything out. I attended the Maricopa Foundation Awards. The first one was for the outstanding instructors, again, people who've contributed a great deal of their lives. And then after that, it was followed by a celebration of students who had done exceptionally well and received scholarships for that. I participated at Phoenix College, and it was an experience I'll never forget, as about half of the students received their diplomas. We had quite a bit of rain. And I have to say, I really admired the students for not leaving. I expected everyone to start leaving the facilities, and they did not. Everybody stayed and waited for every single student's name to be read and every single student to come up to the podium in the rain and shake everyone's hand. It was all outside, and we all left drenched. But I haven't heard of anybody ending up in the hospital, so it was no big deal.
Well, thank goodness there's no hospitals to report. Mr. Heap.
Just last but not least, I would like to congratulate the students for the graduation. They're superb. But I want to say wow to the presidents and their staffs for orchestrating such magnificent enthusiasm and carrying out, all I can say is thank you. It was an honor and a pleasure being able to participate. I was at the Rio commencement, Veterans Convocations, Mesa graduation of the sun broke out for 2 hours. We had a graduation, and then the rains came through. So that was a thank you to the heavens. Last but not least, we got two. I want to say thank you to the taxpayers. There was a major taxpayer budget briefing, so we got to say thank you to the taxpayers for taking care of us, not only now but also for the future and the new budget. Now, another area that was really unusual. I've been a vendor for 45 years. I've never been invited to anything where the vendors were said thank you to, and they awarded the vendors plaques and things like this. We've never that was a pleasure because I've never seen a thank you to vendors, and we've got a lot of them out there that they appreciate whether they know it or not.
Thank you, sir. Ms. McGrath.
Madam President, I too participated in some very rewarding ceremonies, and since Mr. Heat said that he was last, I'll end my remarks. Couldn't pass it.
Okie dokie. Mr. Starr.
Yeah, on last Friday I attended the graduation ceremonies at Scottsdale Community College. It was another great ceremony. Looking at what the chancellor said, we graduated with certificates and diplomas somewhere north of 25,000 students this year. To me, that's amazing. Can't think of a single university in the nation that can claim that many graduates. So congratulations to all of you who have a big part in that success. Also, tomorrow, or Thursday and Friday, I'll be attending the Southwest Pathways Conference in Scottsdale. I'm looking forward to that. And then finally, I did attend one of our charter schools graduations. I've attended that the last couple of years at Phoenix College Preparatory Academy. I remember last year, I think there were 7 graduates. This year, there were 17. So that is a growing institution, and we look forward to more success in that endeavor.
Well, I had a great time. I had the privilege of speaking at Rio, Gateway, Paradise Valley Community College, a short comment at the Veterans Convocation, and I had the delight of getting to speak at the high school equivalency, or GED as it's may be commonly known, diploma celebration. I mean, these are students that come back to us after a time away, whatever their reasons, and they all have stories. It was absolutely moving. It was so exciting to be there and to feel their excitement and really see the stories in their eyes and in their hearts. It made me proud. Yeah, I was already proud, but it made me even more delighted to stand before them and to shake their hands, because they were the true champions that night, not any of us on the stage. It was a pleasure to see all the different graduations, to see their mark on the graduation ceremonies, and to be a part of not only the graduates who have the traditional path of going through high school and then going on to the college of their choices or the certifications of their choices, but there were so many in the audience that were doing dual enrollment and were standing not only with their high school degree, but yet they were receiving their AAs even before they would graduate from high school. And to see those children, students, many adults, broke my heart in such a fabulous way. not in a negative way. I was so pleased to see how much we are turning out that is positive in this society. It just was amazing. Today I had the privilege of going to South Mountain Community College, and all I can do is really second what Ms. Haver was saying. Their diligence to developmental ed, which really surrounds our entire One Maricopa, but it just poured out of their heart and soul, because that is truly what their community is begging for and dying for, is that extra boost so they can get through school a little bit faster. It was a pleasure to be at South Mountain today. I will be finishing up the tour of colleges by the end of this summer, first week in August, and I look forward to each and every one of them, because it truly each college sets themselves apart in such a brilliant way. But yet we're all the same in our mission, and that's the students. So thank you very much for letting me drone on about that for a moment. Before we end this evening, we do have some association reports. Mr. Burke first with the Arizona Association of District Governing Boards.
We will have a meeting in mid-July. Have no other report tonight.
All right, thank you, sir. And the Arizona School Boards Association, Mr. Sarr, along with the Association of Community College Trustees.
Nothing new tonight.
Well, as we move right along. The next meetings, I do want you to know, they're open. Come on in. June 1st, we're having that one isn't, Ethics Training Governing Board. June 4th, 10 a.m. Budget and Finance, well, that one, sorry, they're not all open, I guess. Budget and Finance Committee Retreat. June 9th at 5 p.m. Budget Board Policy Committee meeting. Agenda Review, June 9th at 6 p.m. June 16th, we will be having our Board Budget and Finance Committee meeting, and June 16th at 6:30, the regular board meeting at the Governing Board room. Please note the regular board meeting in June has been moved up 1 week, so please mark June 16th on your calendar, board fans, and there will be no board meetings in the month of July. And so with that, I adjourn the regular board meeting of May 26, 2015. Executive session is scheduled to immediately follow this meeting in the Maricopa room. Thank you very much.